knowing that, yes, I could get my license revoked. People said to me, Aseem, some of my friends, you're going to get struck off the medical register.
And that's a serious thing, because you love being a doctor that has patients. I mean, that's
absolutely. I'm a practicing cardiologist. That's my passion. I love, seeing patients and helping patients. But I thought this was too big to not accept that potential risk. But I thought that what I would do is get this into the mainstream news, and I would accept the full consequences of that. But once it's a mainstream, Brian, as I've seen before with other stuff that I've done, it would be game over. Like the conflict that had been suppressed amongst many people who had been in the space, and it had been growing movement on the grassroots amongst many activists who were fighting back across the world. Once it got into the mainstream, it couldn't be ignored, and they would have to do something about it, and it almost certainly would lead to a suspension, in my view, at that point. So I did everything I could to work, actually, and I won't name this person because he's a good guy. I've worked with him before, with a journalist for a mainstream newspaper who had access to the raw paper at least a couple of months before it was finally published, because it goes through all the editing and all that kind of stuff, to make him aware this is what's coming out, and do you want the exclusive? And he was absolutely. And by the time, and the other interesting thing that happened, it was just a few months before it came out, I went and planted a seed at the BMA annual conference on the corporate capture of public health, but a paper had come out, which for me was the smoking gun, right? And that paper alone should have been enough to suspend the vaccine. It was a reanalysis of Pfizer and Moderna's own trial, RCT, independent researchers, very eminent people, who basically found from the very beginning you were more likely to suffer a serious adverse event from the vaccine than to be hospitalized with COVID, which means it probably should never have been approved in the first place, right? But it got through the regulators probably because they are captured. And that had already been published, again, not made in the news. And I went to the BMA annual conference to give this talk, which was actually initially invited to speak there in commemoration of my father, again, who was very heavily involved in the BMA. And I gave this lecture, and there was literally pin drop silence at the end of it. I mean, I got applause, and a lot of people coming up to me saying, well done, oh my God, we didn't know this. I talked about the corporate capture of public health, but I just put one slide in on this paper in vaccine saying, we should think about this a little bit. That's all I said. And people were a bit shocked, right? And I got an award given to me at the end of that talk that was already planned as being a champion of preventative medicine. Right, it was called the International Medical Graduates Champion. It was like an award, and it was given to me by the chair of the BMA. But what had happened was, because of the rush, the organizer of the event had said, Aseem, we forgot to even everything, because I have this tendency to overrun with my talks, right? So everything was quite rushed, and won't have the dinner. And the conference was ongoing over the next couple of days. And before I left the next morning, he said, why didn't you get, Chand, he asked Chand, who's the chair of the BMA, will you give this award to Aseem and we can take photographs? So he said, absolutely. So Chand, interestingly, we were trying to find the right place to take the photograph, and he was quite happy. He wanted, in fact, to be taken in front of where the BMA logo was. So he's given me this award. I tweet out that I'm getting an award from the chair of the BMA, which is all factually correct. And it was an International Medical Graduates Award. And then it suddenly, I didn't realize till a few hours later, it went mental on Twitter. So suddenly all these doctors, some prominent NHS doctors, were saying, how can you give an award to this guy, anti-vaxxer, all this kind of stuff, right? This is before I published my paper. And I wondered, one of the reasons as well, I think, Brian, is I had been very vocal from the end of 2021, not just about saying there's a signal of harm here. I never called for the vaccine to be suspended, but I became one of the most vocal people in the UK, and certainly with the largest following as doctors, to help end the vaccine mandate for healthcare workers. Okay. And I think that part of my language pissed off some of these doctors, right? So suddenly I'm an anti-vaxxer because I helped overturn the vaccine mandate. And for me, one of my proudest moments was helping save 80,000 NHS jobs, right? I had doctors in those. So I think that's and I hadn't realized that, I think, that there was that groundswell of NHS doctors who were unhappy that I'd been that person. So suddenly this thing takes off on Twitter, and the next thing that happens is the chair of the BMA gets put under pressure by members within the BMA council, I don't know who, to basically make a statement saying they effectively dissociate themselves from the views of Aseem Malhotra, right? Which is kind of slightly embarrassing, but I was also I was hurt by it to a degree, because I was like, hold on a minute. You are my dad's closest friends. This was all part of, and what's this got to do with the vaccine, right? This is nothing, my talk was a private talk. I'm talking about this preventive medicine award, and they are unhappy because how can you give this to a guy who was against vaccine mandates? So this all kicked off, and then we moved forward. So they had to make this statement, et cetera, and that got a little bit of news in the medical press. And then we moved forward to September 2021, 2022, last year. I had then gone through this process of, we digress. I had given it to this journalist, right, and saying, this is your exclusive story, he's all in. And I even timed and asked the editor of the journal, can you hold back the publication date to coincide? Because of course, medical journals, they want publicity on their stuff, right? They were happy that this was happening. And last minute, he pulled out. And he'd had statements from the British Heart Foundation to respond, and the British Immunological Society, and they're basically in complete denial. There is no evidence that the vaccine is causing any harm, blah, blah, blah. Usual stuff. Now that's fine. Traditionally, this has happened before with many stories I've done, because this is the so-called balance or the right of reply or whatever else, and that's fine. I was okay with it, but this time he said, I can't do the story. So someone had put pressure on him, I think, or something had happened. He'd been scared off. And I was actually pretty gutted. I was distraught at this point. I was like, I put all my eggs into this. And I'd also realized as well, Brian, that there's a good chance that we talked about this before the show, that I'd already been banned from LinkedIn after my GB News interview about saying there should be an investigation into the harms of the vaccine a year earlier. I'd had several shadow bans and even bans from Facebook for questioning lockdowns and face masks. And I'd still been going on Twitter, interestingly, but I thought this might be enough to get me cancelled from Twitter. But I thought if I get into the mainstream news, it's fine. I've done my job and I'll take the consequences. Now, luckily, for whatever reason, I wasn't banned from Twitter, so I put stuff out through social media. It went viral, right? There was a video I'd done for the journal they'd asked me to do, and that got up to 1 million views. I think it ultimately got taken down from YouTube after 1 million views. And then I thought, you know what? I need to go international. I'd done a lot of stuff internationally before.
So Jim Rickards has just recorded a video that's not available to anyone in the public, and he's going to be talking about how this upcoming recession is going to be fast, it's going to be bloody, it's going to be nasty. But at the same time, he's going to show you how you can position yourself to profit from all of this chaos. Now, we've made this video only available to our viewers. Go to londonreal.tv/Jim. Watch that immediately. I can't say enough good things about Jim Rickards. He understands the global economic system better than any guest I've ever had on London Real. His predictions are almost uncannily true, and you can learn how to profit from his vision, from his expertise, and his understanding of economics. So go to londonreal.tv/Jim or click the link below. It's an excellent, excellent look on what's going to happen in the future and how you can position yourself to profit from that. Jim is one of the best in the business, one of my favorite guests on London Real, and he's very, very good at predicting the future and showing us all to profit from it. So click the link, and I hope you enjoy. I'm looking for partners, collaborators, colleagues who want to join forces with me around the globe and create real value, generational wealth, and financial freedom for everyone else around the world. Get involved in the cryptocurrency markets, get involved in the NFT markets. This is your moment. Life all comes down to a few moments. Don't let this pass. Now it's not too late. Next year's going to be too late. Ultimately, this is about freedom. That's the way I see it. This is about giving power back to the people and enabling billions of people worldwide to use the financial markets to improve their lives and those of their friends and their families and their communities. Honestly, I think it's a violation of human rights not to allow people basic access to financial services. Because right now people are being kept in the dark, they're being robbed of education, and it's a travesty. And so I'm looking for people that want to join me and be a part of this solution. And that all happens inside the DeFi Academy. The gains my students are making are absolutely amazing. Double, triple digit gains in the first month alone. That's amazing. This will change your life. Now is the time to get involved. I'm gonna tell you exactly how my students in my academy made money in the last 30 days. I'm talking about real trading results. And let me just whet your appetite a little bit. Let me hit you with some numbers. I'm talking Brendan from New Zealand is up 68.77% on the month. Steve from Europe up 83%. Albert in Singapore up 169.9% on one single trade. I got Susan up 153% on her call options alone, also rocking 139% returns and 442% returns as well on individual trades. These are people that are changing their financial future in the last 30 days, but it's based on trading discipline.
I've graduated over 500 students from inside my academy from over 54 countries around the world. It's amazing. When it comes to crypto, DeFi, and blockchain, we love this space. We truly believe it's the future. This is down to our core. It's authentic to what we're doing, and everybody can tell through the camera because you can't make this stuff up.
If you're watching me now, wherever you are, I implore you, take 60 seconds right now and join my academy. Apply today. Now you've got a chance. Life all comes down to a few moments. What are you gonna do? What's the choice that you're going to make?